let's get into it. Let's get into the review. Food Chain Magnate, the Ketchup Mechanism and Other Ideas, is designed by Jeroen Duman and Joris Weersinga. It plays from 2 to 6 players now for sadists. Right. It plays 120 to 240 minutes. If you're playing with 6 players, I would leave about 1,000 minutes. Its weight is 4.5. Heavy. And do I need to tell anyone on this podcast that it is published by Splatter? I don't think I do. Splatterspielen is the publisher. So the original Food Chain Magnate was probably the biggest hit that Splatter ever had. They are a small Dutch publisher that makes a game every other year or something along those lines. And their games, and their games are amazingly sort of handcrafted and
boutique,
thought out in a way that is different than every other game. They don't all of the things that when you sit down and play a Euro, you can almost immediately identify these 5 characteristics of this particular game and feel like you've got, once you have the vocabulary of Euros, feel like you've got your foot, your foot is in the water. With a Splatter, you have no idea.
What have you just stepped into and gone up to your
Exactly.
neck?
You would think, oh, well, there. I think this is kind of like a worker placement thing. Oh, no. You have never done worker placement like this, right? It seems like I'm picking different roles here. No. Radically different. They are games which notoriously you can lose on the very first turn, and their design point of view is this.
It's a point of pride for
if you could not lose on the first turn of the game, why are you starting on the first turn of the game? Which I think is a very interesting perspective for game design. They have games that tend to explode in terms of permutations. I would think that is a very good way of putting what they do. Indonesia is an economic game in which you are building companies and you're creating resources, and somebody else's company is transporting those resources from the plantations to the cities. Seems as simple as pie, but it explodes because you're able to form mergers between those companies. You're able to do all kinds of machinations on the board and with stock value of the company and things like that. That it's just it becomes
the games. I think some of the trademarks of Splatter games is that like mastery is elusive.
Yes,
they are. I know this sounds contradictory. They are complex in terms of their weight while being elegant.
Yes.
At the same time, they tend to have, when you actually look at it, rather simple mechanics with major implications that you're going to struggle to comprehend as you play the game.
Yeah. One of my absolute favorites of all time of theirs is a game called Antiquity. In Antiquity, we are building a civilization. We start with a city on a map, and that map has got different types of territories and all of that sort of stuff. And we have a menu, much like in Food Chain. I have a menu, and when I open that menu, it tells me these 30 types of buildings that I can build, each of which has a little polyomino-shaped building that will go into my little building map.
This is your anxiety board.
My anxiety board, exactly. It's just 30 different things. And guess what?
Here's a ton of stuff.
For 1 wood, I can build the woodcutter. For 1 wood, I can build the fisherman. For 1 stone, I can build the faculty of biology. For 1, and so it's
and why do I want to build the faculty of biology? I don't know, but it's there.
It says right next to it what it does.
There's a lot.
It's all very, very clear. The connections between all of those things is what becomes unclear. It is a sandbox game in which it is quicksand. It can sink you in a heartbeat, and you have to figure out how to survive. And because it's a Splatter, they put the pressure on you immediately. Everything you do causes pollution. Everything you do causes famine. And
this is kind of the emotional space of their games a lot of times.
It is.
So back to our chart here, like their games are very comfortable. They're in anxiety. You're in anxiety a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You are.
You are.
I guess for me,
you're never bored.
Nope.
You are never bored.
You are not bored. I mean, you're bored when you become overwhelmed, right? When anxiety.
I think
crosses,
that's different.
I agree.
You go into overload, and then you emotionally check out.
Correct.
That's not the same thing as boredom.
People express that as boredom, but it's not. No. I totally agree. I totally agree.
It's shut down.
So in the original food chain Magnate, you start with a CEO. You start with a map of a town.
We are competing fast food franchises.
Correct.
There's a neighborhood with houses that we are going to compete over in terms of our selling of various fast food goods. Just for the basic overview of the game.
Beer, pizza, burgers, soda, that sort of thing. You have to advertise to these houses. You then have to make the goods, and you have to be able to deliver them.
This is not a worker placement game.
It is not.
What we are doing, in fact, is we are the CEO of a company, and we are adding employees to our company as we go on, and then each of those employees has powers that we trigger on our turn so that our company grows over time. You said that's accurate?
Exactly right.
So how you build your company, so this is great in terms of theme matching mechanics. You literally have a org chart.
Yes, that you are managing
on each
round.
turn. You are rejiggering in order to lay out your plan for how this round of selling fast food is going to go.
So when they created the game, they believed, and we know this, they believed that there were maybe 4 good opening moves. They thought that the first hire that your CEO makes could be a recruiting girl, and the recruiting girl just hires another person. So then you go from hiring one person a turn to hiring 2 people a turn. Well, that makes sense. That's going to build your infrastructure very quickly, right?
Getting bigger.
That has very strong material advantages that become very clear to realize. Another strategy is to build a trainer as your first guy. The trainer is going to take the employees that your CEO hires and train them up into better positions. So your rookie marketer becomes a campaign manager. Your
errand boy becomes
a cart operator, right?
Becomes a truck driver.
Your kitchen trainee becomes a pizza chef, or a pizza cook, or
pizza
whatever.
Cook, then a pizza chef,
and then a pizza chef.
Yep.
They can all be upgraded, and some of them can be upgraded. The management trainees can be turned into anything from the CFO, the chief financial officer of the company, to a guru that can train people massively fast, to a regional manager that is going to open new branches of your restaurant, and so on and so forth. There's a whole bunch of things that can be trained. So that's got an interesting progression to it. Whereas instead of the recruiting girl strategy where you're hiring a whole bunch of people, you are trying to hire fewer people but get them into those really high positions where their powers are much greater. They also believed that there was a strategy where you could start with a marketing trainee who puts out the very first billboard and starts the desire for goods in the game. And then they thought that there was also a strategy that would involve starting with a cart operator and just getting some drinks and being ready to fulfill
so you've got
demand.
Like your market. Yeah, you've got your production option.
Yes.
You've got kind of bigger. You've got better. You've got I'm going to advertise better, and now you have I'm going to produce more. So
we played this game when it first came out because we get all the splatters immediately, and we play them immediately. Conservatively, we probably played it 10 times in the first 2 months, easily. And we were checking the boards because we kept nobody who played the cart operator ever did very well.
So I think one final explanation about the game is milestones. There's a mechanism in this game that when you are the first to do something or tied with someone else on a turn to do something, you get a reward, which is called a milestone, which is generally a very powerful permanent power. Sometimes it's a temporary, you get this thing type of thing, but it's kind of the thing that catapults you forward in the game. You are defined both by your org chart, but by the milestones that you've achieved. And it's often very important to be the first or tied with first on many of these milestones. So you're constantly racing to these milestones. And so when Tom's starting to talk about certain strategies emerging, this is based upon the milestones of the original game that kind of explode what you're doing. And you had these competing strategies based upon the milestones that you achieved and which were better than others.
Yes. When you hire a trainer in the original game, you don't have to pay salaries, which means you can train your guys up to higher and higher positions. The low-level guys don't need salaries, right? They're paid out of the till.
Yep.
But the higher-level guys, they need to be paid $5 a turn, and until you start generating
and you could go
machine.
bankrupt and have to start laying off employees if you did it wrong.
Right. In this game, you don't have to pay if you are the first person to use a trainer. Right. The person with the recruiting girl has other advantages of a similar type.
They're all great
because of those, and they're all great. What we ended up finding out was that we quickly came to the solution or the realization that there are probably only two really effective starting strategies in the original Food Chain Magnate, and that was recruiting girl and trainer. That the marketing trainee did not really work. Came close in a few instances, but never quite got there. Mm-hmm. And the errand boy was pretty much a non-starter. The designers of the game were like, no, marketing strategy can work. Marketing strategy can work. I believe they honestly thought that was a perfectly valid strategy, and I bet you in their play tests they made it work. And they're expert players. The problem is that we've got tons and tons of people that are playing this game now, and they've done so many.
You can't play test enough to know.
Never.
Yeah.
So it came down to two strategies, and even that is somewhat in question. In the last World Board Gaming Championship, 7 out of 8 of the finalists won with the recruiting girl.
Right.
And not that. So
this stuff was not only scripted.
Yes.
Like that. Like you can explore the space, but ultimately you're going to kind of come down to 3 or 4 really paths to go. Really, then it looked like, okay, there's only 2. And now we learned, okay, in fact, there's only 1.
Which is only to say the very first move of the game. Right? It's like,
sure.
How many times in chess is the king's pawn not your opener in one way or another?
But this is a problem, right? Because that's not, like, you're not maintaining flow if the game feels solved.
Yes. That said, it's only solved in that first turn. The permutations of the game become vast very, very quickly.
Sure, but certainly if the right move is always to go recruiting girl first, you just narrowed
by their own definition. Why start the game there?
Mm-hmm.
Right, their own definition is why start the game this round. If everyone should start with the recruiting girl if that is the de facto strategy, right? Yep. And by the way, we don't know. We know that the current thinking of the game is that is the best.
And I would
strategy.
say also like 99% of the people that are going to play this game are not going to be able to kind of like run that perfect script anyway.
Oh, if you're playing with people that have played this game less than 20 times, you can win with the marketing strategy in the beginning of the game. You can win with all sorts of things. It's only when you start getting really good that this starts to come into play. But these guys were releasing this game in a lot of different places, and they, being the creative guys that they are, they came up with some very cute ideas. So South Korea has got a great gaming culture. Right? Lots of board gaming cafes. They sell a lot of games there. So they put out a game in which kimchi was an item. Mm-hmm. And a kimchi chef was a person. A kimchi maker was a item in that game. When they did it for Japan, they had sushi. When they did it for China, they had noodles. And so they decided when they were going to put out an expansion, which they've only done.
When they did it for Seattle, they added coffee. Yes. There is coffee here.
There is coffee. There's coffee in the game. They decided to put out an expansion for this game. I believe it's only the second expansion they've ever done. They did Etc., which was an expansion for Roads and Boats.
Yeah.
I think this is only the second one that they've ever done. They started by saying, okay, well, let's take all of these cool expansions that we had for these other games and put them in, and let's figure out what we want to do with this game. How do we want to add the longevity to this game that we want it to have? Because, by the way, I would play basic Food Chain without the Ketchup expansion. I would play it almost any. You say, let's put this on the table.
Yeah.
I will be a vote for yes every single time, and twice on Sunday. I absolutely love it, just the way it is. But these guys are perfectionists. They said, let's just change the milestones. And it turns out that if you just change the reward system in the game, if you just change what you get for being the first person to do A and what you get for being the first person to do B, you change everything. You really do change everything.
And these weren't just little tweaks.
No.
Either. They kind of started from scratch almost on most of these, right?
They replaced replaced all of them.
Yeah.
They replaced all of them. It used to be that the first drink that was made would get a certain reward. Now it is the first drink sold, but it's not just the first drink sold. It's the first soda sold gets one reward. The first lemonade sold gets a different reward. The first beer sold gets a third type of reward, which means that there are now within that making drinks and selling drinks strategy, you don't get anything for just making drinks. Anybody can make drinks, but it's finding a marketing and selling them. Each one of them is kind of a different strategy, and the game is sort of designed so that almost nobody's going to be able to get all three of these. You're going to have to pick and choose. You're going to have to. It's a real calculation that goes in there. Another example is the pizza and the burgers. It used to be the first pizza you make, the first beer, the first burger you make. Now it's the ones that you sell.
And even then, the rewards are different.
The rewards are considerably.
So what Tom is saying is like those scripts that we were talking about. You know, they just got completely blown up. They're gone. If you play with the expansion, they're gone, and it's a whole new space.
Yes,
it's a whole new. So when we think about this expansion, there are three major elements: new milestones.
Yes,
that's major.
Yep,
whole new game. Very interesting.
That's the game, by the way. That is the major change is the new milestones.
So that's one.
Yep.
Two is all of these kind of crazy expansions that you can pick and choose entirely in terms of what you use and don't use.
Yep.
In them, you can play with all of them. You can play with none of them. Our first game playing this, we didn't play with any of them. We just played milestones.
Yep.
And then the third element, which gives the expansion its name, is the Ketchup Mechanism itself.
Which was a reaction to people who said, you know what, this game devolves into Runaway Leader far too quickly. And to which they said, "Okay, we're gonna."
Which they said,
we have to put in a ketchup mechanism. What are we gonna put in it? What are we gonna call our ketchup mechanism? Oh, the ketchup mechanism,
right?
Which is interesting. Which I might have a problem with actually. Having
you're trying to play the game competitively.
No. I mean literally because of the way I've seen.
Have we even really tried it?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you tried it. Tried it. See, I haven't played a game with the ketchup mechanism yet.
Yes, I've done it. I've had 2 games with the ketchup mechanism, and
what offends you about it?
I'm notifying.
So tell people what it is.
So the ketchup mechanism is a mechanism in which the first player to market a good that somebody else delivers instead of them. In other words, they cannibalize the thing that you marketed. Mm-hmm. You are going to get a.
That's my house.
You're going to get a milestone, and that milestone is -1 distance. Distance is a very important thing in this game. If TREY's business is 2 squares away from the house he wants to deliver to, and my business is only 1 square away from the house he wants to deliver to, we both can deliver to that house. We both have the things that house is asking for, and we both have the same pricing. They're going to always pick my house. I'm going to get the delivery because they don't want to drive so far. They want to drive the shorter distance. In order for TREY to be competitive with me, he's going to have to lower his prices. And for every dollar he lowers his price, it subtracts 1 from the distance calculation there. So having a permanent -1 distance is a very big deal.
Significant advantage.
It is. It is a significant advantage.
And this is what Tom's describing. This is kind of like the game.
Yes.
Like we're competing to market, I mean, not just market, but sell our goods to houses that have a certain demand that we've determined with our marketing campaigns, and like how far away you are from something and what it is priced. This is the decision space of the game.
Marketing is something that happens at the end of a round, and you can market with a low-level marketer is going to put up a billboard, and a billboard markets to every house that it touches, that it physically touches. A next-level marketer does a mailbox campaign where they're doing direct mail, and every house that doesn't cross a street, every house that is sort of in the same neighborhood gets marketed to that way. There's planes that market across the board.
This is all, like, I think Jesse was kind of talking about it a little bit in immersion. Mm-hmm. There's some, like, the mechanisms in terms of like modeling this wacky fast food competition between multiple companies here. They're really amazing for how much they engage with. Like we're actually running marketing campaigns with our fast food things. We have org charts. We're having to decide what products and what we price them at, and we're getting into price wars with each other over our burgers that we have to deliver to apartment buildings. I mean, it's an incredible marriage of mechanism and theme.
I am marketing something to your houses that I know you can't produce just so you can't deliver to those houses. There's all sorts of skullduggery going on. But let's get back to the point. The point is that in the initial game, we figured out that there were really mainly two strategies, right? In this game, there's for sure, we can verify there is a third strategy. The reward for being the first person to market goods is huge, is a really big deal. I have played it now. I think I've played basically 2 times each. I've played 2 times as doing a marketing first strategy, 2 times as a trainer first strategy, and 2 times as a recruiting girl strategy. And they are all totally viable, very interesting, and they ramp up a lot faster. Even the recruiting girl, which was already the strongest thing, the reward for starting with the recruiting girl, the milestone you get for that is you get an executive vice president that you don't have to pay for. That means 10 slots that person has underneath them. They can have 10 employees under them, which is a real problem for the recruiting girl, because what the recruiting girl wants to do is hire a whole bunch of people and expanding your company so that you have enough slots that, executives that can supervise these people is a really important thing. The trainer, when you do a trainer for the first time now in this game, you get another trainer. So right away, you're getting 2 trainers that can train more and more people faster and faster and faster. And the marketing strategy is diabolical. When you are the first marketer, you get a bunch of things. First of all, you get this thing where every good you market for the rest of the game, just marketing that good, you get $5.
Right.
For every house that you market to that gets one of those goods on it, you get $5. Second benefit, -2 distance. Not -1 distance, -2 distance. Suddenly, this is not a very big map for this game. Mm-hmm. -2 distance means
huge
like a third, a half of the map. Yep. You can suddenly leap forward ahead, and you're basically you're undercutting people. People have to price war you.
They have to respond to that, yeah.
People have to price war you to even be in the conversation. And the other thing is that you're going to start off immediately with a kitchen trainee and with an errand boy. So you're already making a burger, a pizza, and a soda or whatever drink that you want to make, which is important because being the first one to market, you also want to be the person that can sell that good.
Okay, so for me,
yes,
these new milestones completely make the new game totally worth playing. It's a very exciting new space to explore. I wonder, over time, is it going to kind of get mapped out the way the previous one did? I don't know,
Maybe.
But that's going to be a fun journey to find out for a lot of players that want to get into it. So, it's especially if you played the first one, it's definitely worth coming back to the second. So, negatives about this game, Tom. Do you have any, or are you all in?
Okay, I'm going to say the only things that are negative to me, which is really few, because I love this game. I will say that the Ketchup Mechanism is such that getting an extra -1 distance is pretty key, but it tends to go to the first marketer, because the first marketer is putting out those billboards. And if anybody can ever deliver to one of those homes, then the first marketer ends up being the person that gets a -2 distance, and then they also are the ones that get that extra -1 distance, which can be a problem. Might be a problem in the game that I've noticed. The other thing is that the expansions, the coffee, the kimchi, the sushi, the noodles, the ketchup, the fries, all of these things.
Fries?
Fries.
I didn't know about the fries.
Yes.
I didn't know about the fries.
Yes. Fries are in the game. This is not an expansion where you throw everything in.
Mm-hmm.
It is... I kind of want to talk about all of them. I'm not sure I have the time to talk about all of them.
You didn't. Let me answer that question for you. So if we're going to go to our local convention and they're going to have a food chain magnate tournament,
yes,
what rules are they using?
they're going to have to choose a set of rules to play by. Probably they use the new milestones and a couple of the other cards.
So you like the rules don't have what like the official tournament version.
Well, there is a recommended setups. There's a list of like 4 or 5 different.
Like I imagine like the World Board Game Championships will come up with this or whatever.
Course, yeah.
But it's not clear.
No.
Like we kind of struggled with that when we kind of first were looking at this thing. It's kind of like, what are we supposed to play here? Like there's so many options that it can kind of be overwhelming, which is a familiar experience with anything Splatter, right?
Yes, I played a game in which we played with kimchi, sushi, and noodles. It went very well. It was fantastic. Played a game where we did coffee, the night shift manager, the mass marketer, and the rule marketer, and that went quite well too. So you can take a bunch of these things because some of these are just a single card.
Yeah.
Some of these expansions
you
are
have to know the game
card.
pretty well to begin making those decisions about let's try this, let's do that. And
your first time playing this game, just play with the milestones. Do not add any of the new elements first, and then add them in as they go. Because I have to say, they are good. They are really, really good. Kimchi circumvents the whole. The person who is the closest is the restaurant they'll go to. In that, a person that makes kimchi, everybody wants to go to the restaurant with kimchi. So as long as you have kimchi, you're going to jump to the top of the leaderboard as far as that goes. Sushi is a good that only the fancy places want. The houses that have gardens all want sushi, and the houses without gardens do not want sushi. So it creates a really interesting change in dynamic there. Noodles, nobody wants noodles. But if a house can't be delivered to by anybody, they will take noodles. And noodles you can make in mass. You can make a huge amount of noodles. So we played a game where noodle strategy became a thing. If you are marketing enough things to a lot of houses that there's 4 or 5 houses where nobody can deliver to it because they want such a combination of goods that nobody can deliver that, all of a sudden noodles becomes an option. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you're saying is like the permutations of this game are so large and all of these different are exciting.
Yes.
Like this is an exciting decision space for you that you are having a great time exploring.
Yes.
Okay, so you're over the hump.
I'm definitely over.
You're over the hump with this game because negatives is that there's a big hump. This game is a tough thing to learn.
Yes.
Like take the weight of this game seriously. It is a 4.5. Do not make any of your friends play this. Like don't just trot this game out.
No.
People need to watch the video.
They
need to they probably need to watch it ahead of time, and they need to be emotionally ready to exist in a state of anxiety for quite a while in learning this. And if that's fine with people and they bought in, then you're in good shape, because this game can be deeply unpleasant for some people. The nature of the milestones means that like some of the other games like Trismegistus, like there can be almost like an exponential growth in this game. And that means that you're hitting your right milestones at the right time. You're kind of winning a certain number of races. You fall off the pace in this game. You're in a bad place. You
can be in situations where you are making burgers, and then you find out, oh, I can't deliver any of these burgers.
Not a single
I'm throwing them all out because somebody did this thing that I wasn't taking into account. And then when you take that into account, you then try to deliver your burgers, and oh, they did this other thing. That now means I can't deliver my burgers. You're right, and
there's
a lot of layers to it.
That's not fun. And I think that
fun,
playing this game, I think it's highly likely when you play this game that at least one person on your group is not going to have fun. Like this is an intensely competitive game. It's not zero sum, but like there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of racing. And people are going to lose those races, both in terms of milestones, but in terms of being able to sell your stuff. And so it's likely that some people are not going to have a good time. And even then, like the space that Tom's exploring with the various strategies, that's kind of like when things are working. When you fall off the pace in this game, you may not be exploring any space at all because you feel like I can't do anything. So like, for example, Tom Vassell recently did a first impressions of of this game, which is an odd thing because he just did a first impressions of a game that's been out for years. It wasn't even the Ketchup expansion, but like it was clear listening to him, he didn't get over the hump.
No.
And he had a negative experience, and I think a lot of people are. And he described, in fact, that his final turn of the game, like he wasn't able to do anything. So just know that is the nature of splatters in general, and this one specifically is that this is rarefied air when it comes to games. This is for people that have a lot of games under their belt elsewhere and are also kind of just
but let's put this
ready
in
to
perspective.
have the game hit you in the face a little bit.
Is it that much different than a game like Gaia Project? Gaia Project, I don't think it really is.
Yeah.
I think in Gaia Project, your first play, if you don't know what you're doing and the other people do, you are lost at sea. You can come in last by a long margin.
Yeah. This feels more painful to me. But that said, this is a great game. Gaia Project is a great game. These are both games that we would say
this theme might be more interesting to some gamers than that, in that you're hiring people, you're putting together your corporate structure. There's it's an interesting space even if you're not doing well at it.
You can get trapped in this game,
sure,
and have not fun.
Absolutely,
and
true.
I think. And maybe I'm being unfair here. Like there really is like you hear the excitement in Tom's voice. I think a lot of our group have played this game.
It's amazing.
And appreciated this game.
Oh my God.
I'm not sure I really want to play this game anymore.
Oh, it's the best game.
I think Tom may be alone in like.
Definitely not alone.
You're not alone, but I'm not sure anybody else is like, oh, I just really want to play Food Chain Magnate over and over again. Did Ben want to?
Yes.
Ben liked it.
Oh, Ben loves it.
He's pretty smart.
Maddie loves it. Alfred loves it.
Maddie actually played it that much?
Alfred loves it. It's a great game. It's amazing.
I'm not sure you're objective about this.
Listen, I may not be, but listen, you guys have heard me drone on about this game and that game for a long time. You know my tastes. I'm not afraid to jump into. I'm not afraid to jump into the deep
end.
Just
caveats.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely not a game for everybody. This is a game that does not have airbags.
Yeah, that's a feature, not a bug.
That's right. This game does not have airbags. Even a game like Gaia Project has a little bit of airbags. There's the constraints of the game, the constraints of the system are such that there's only so far you can go astray. That eventually the actions of the game are going to yield some fruit. In this game, you could yield no fruit. I highly recommend that if there is a person that is teaching this game, for the first game, to, as much as possible, to be sort of walking them through a sort of thought process as to what the next step might be. What the next thing? What are you going to hire next? Who are you going to hire? Why are you going to do that? What's your road to profitability? In that sense, it's not that different than a Martin Wallace game in some ways, in that it is a brutal economic game in which you could make no money over the course of the entire game if you can't catch up with where the money is flowing and how the money is going. It is definitely possible.
Martin Wallace games, which we described as brutal, unforgiving economic engines, I think ultimately are far easier to understand. And I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that's bad. Like the strength of Splatter, like my appreciation for Splatter is incredibly high because the lessons of the games are often elusive. And that's amazing. These kind of decision spaces that they create that continue to, surprise and reward different types of play, that's very hard to achieve, and they really do, deserve some recognition. But it's also like for me, I think that's probably a much narrower group of players that can appreciate that, and you gotta find those and play with them.
Yeah, listen, if you can play on Mars, you can play Food Chain Magnate. If you can play Gaia Project, you can play Food Chain Magnate. You should try it. You should absolutely try it. It's a wonderful game. There are a bunch of splatters that are absolutely amazing games and way in my top list. But yeah, what Trey's saying is absolutely right. Beware bringing new players that are more medium weight gamers into it. it might be deceptive. The game might look quite simple. It might look like it's, kind of a walk in the park. The theme is friendly. The artwork is friendly. It does not appear to be too involved. You read the rules and they seem fairly straightforward. It is the intersection of those rules with the strategies that emerge from them that become crazy, absolutely crazy. Trey, thank you very much. Thank you for popping my balloon a little bit and bringing things back down to.
We're just getting to what the game is. Like, I think if you looked at like all the plays of this game, you would have a very high percentage of people that had a negative experience. That doesn't mean it's not a good game.
I don't think that's true. I mean, certainly looking at the reviews, that's not true.
Tom Vassell did.
Okay, well, we listen. I think that he gave a review when he said he was going to give a first impression. I think that was a mistake, Tom. But you don't need to hear from me. Tom Vassell gets a lot of slack from me because I would not have half of the games in my collection if it were not for Tom Vassell and for him playing everything clearly not everything, but playing a lot of games and leading me into this hobby, and a lot of people into this hobby. So there you go.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.